Back from recess, and up next we have the Department of Public Works. The department submitted a total request of $3,091,000 for 106 FTEs, inclusive of the requests from all divisions: solid waste, technical services, roads and grounds, building safety, and the secretary's office. Of the 3,091,000, 2.4 is proposed for 103 FTEs. There are 9 vacant positions. Some of them still include funding, and maybe we can get clarification from, I think I see OMB, or she was here. In addition, 27,000 is allocated for operations. The department did not submit any requests for operations. Maybe that's going to be covered by some other source of funding, but we do have several revolving accounts that were reported to include solid waste, and then there's this MARP. MARP financial assurance of 6.8 million. That's in there. And so to testify before the committee, we have the Secretary of Public Works present with us today, Mr. Yumo. Mr. Yumo, please, at this time, join us in the chamber along with your staff. We can utilize some of the seats by Senator Dennis and Senator Hofschneider if you need to.
I can call the others as questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Our goal, as you can see behind me, all of my staff are here, is that we want to be able to get you the answers today, so that you can have a full understanding of our departmental budget and how we intend to work with the submission. So if I may, as you know, the current fiscal year's budget, we as a department did not receive any operational funds, but we were able to work within our means because of the fact that we were able to draw from our revolving accounts, otherwise known as the special accounts. And that has helped this department navigate through the tough economic conditions that we're all facing. To my left, I have Peter Camacho. He's my Division Director of Administrative Services. He, along with the department's account manager, Ms. Rich Siren, to his left, oversees the funds that the department currently has available to it. In the audience, of course, I do have members of the other divisions. Today is almost like I would say it's like Hollywood. I have a lot of actors, so I do apologize. A lot of my directors are on leave for various reasons, and but rest assured, these folks behind me are more than capable of assuming those positions. Mr. Vincent Atto is the acting director of Energy Office. So if you guys have any questions that is not related to the budget, I'm sure you would have some questions regarding our energy program, renewable, for example, solar and the like. So he's here to address any of your concerns. Ms. Yvonne Tenorio in the far, your right, as you face the audience, your right corner. She's the acting building safety official for building code, and this is going to be a challenge with our budget. And I'll explain a little bit more in details as we go along. And on the your far left back corner, we have two folks back there. Cristo de Guerrero, who is the acting TSD director, along with George Sablan. They've been alternating as acting directors because, again, they've had some leaves that were shuffling. But they're both capable of managing the division and are ready to answer any questions. Mr. Ken O'Don is my acting director for solid waste. That's going to be another big subject matter that we need to discuss, especially with the fact that we have the only permitted US EPA permitted landfill. So it's very important that we maintain that permit condition with the caveat of maintaining conditions, and those conditions are obligations that we must have in place, and that requires contractual obligations that have to be met. And then I also have my highway people, Miss Lorraine Villagomez. She's here with our engineers, so that I'm sure the questions on highways will come up, especially among the different senatorial district 1, 2, and 3. We have a lot of great updates for you all. Mr. Joey Cruz, Castro is in the back. He's my acting director of roads and grounds. Very challenging division because, again, of the lack of operational funds. They do maintain the road shoulders and common areas along all the highways here on Saipan. Of course, Road and Tinian is handled by the respective resident directors. Let me see, and that's pretty much everybody that's in the administrative and division. Of course, I also have administrative staff in the middle over there. Miss Winnie Taitano and Rox Panglinan, who assists the account manager, Miss Siren. So, yes, you have received our budget submission versus the submission that was sent over by the administration. Operations was zeroed out. So we're in the current fiscal year 2024, we're working with whatever budget balances we have within our respective accounts, and the two big ones are basically road maintenance, and the other is our building code. As we go out and assess for inspections and occupancy, those accounts are critically needed. For example, the building code, we use that account to ensure that our inspectors have the funding for fuel and supplies, so that they can do their job accordingly. The road maintenance account comes to us via a portion of the driver's license fees, and that is used primarily to cover equipment repairs, maintenance for roads and grounds. But because our operational funds was zeroed, and utilities, I believe, was also zeroed for 2024, we were basically paying our utility bills for street lights, for example, from the maintenance road maintenance account, and that's um, not very prudent policy, if you will, because for me, taking away the funds in from that account takes away from my ability to ensure that we're able to keep the roads properly maintained and safe. And what I mean by maintained and safe is to restripe, to replace worn or missing reflectors, and the like, to even include crosswalks. Um, I was in the middle of working a assistance plan with the RDs of Rhoda and Tinian, that any fees collected from driver's license renewals for those respective senatorial districts, that I was going to return that funds to them, to you, so that those funds can be used for the road maintenance programs on the respective islands. But that will not happen, because again, based on the goals for ensuring that we're able to sustain government. I'm talking about government wide, that we're all able to sustain 2025 budget, is that all the special accounts are being corralled. So we understand that. It's going to be it will be more of a monumental challenge, because once our special accounts depletes to zero, it will not be replenished because of the corralling of special funds, so that we can all get through the 2025 budget. So we're here to basically have a good dialogue with you, so that we all have an understanding of what expectations are going to come out of this department after the 2025 budget has been approved and signed into law. And we are aggressively engaging every available grant out there, but unfortunately grants are mostly for equipment purchases and capacity building, but not for operations. So our biggest headache is with operations. But I do know there are legislations floating around that will assist this department. For example, the restoration of the 3% tipping corrections, the 3% in beautification tax. Right now, it's at 7%. So even though 7% is being suspended, if that bill becomes law, we would at least see some 3%. So that would be extremely helpful. I'm not sure about the total impact, but certainly if this bill becomes law, we'll be able to get back and provide your committee, Mr. Chairman, information regarding collections. We're also looking at for solid waste ways to improve collections, and even consider raising tipping fees. But because the economy is really struggling, we don't want to overburden the public at large in raising tipping fees. Even though that is really the prudent thing to do, we haven't touched tipping fees in many years. It is behind. I believe last year I did speak of this, where we are the lowest in terms of charging tipping fees by gross tons. I believe Guam is already about about $100 per revenue ton. So is Hawaii. We're still at $27.50. And then on top of that, we have been providing a lot of um, benefits to some of the members of the legislature that want to do village cleanups. The mayor's office of Saipan Mayor's office actually, they're racking up a nice running total. I believe we're about close to $163,000 in collections that perhaps if Department of Finance wants to collect from these various agencies, offices, that would help with ensuring that we are in compliance with the mandates of US EPA and DEQ. Because as you know, going back again to my earlier statement about the compliant landfill, is that it comes with conditions, and those conditions means that we have to ensure certain contracts are processed. Leachate testing and monitoring, groundwater well. There's about 4 situated around the perimeter of the landfill that needs to be tested regularly to ensure that the liner has not breached and is leaking contaminants into the ground. Pest control, rodent control, and then our transfer station, the money that we need to ship out recyclables. We have e-waste, we have white goods, we have tires. I believe this fiscal year we have not been able to ship any of these recyclables out due to the difficultness in identifying funding. Our collection at the tipping fee for both the landfill and the transfer station is around $700,000. Our contracts that are required to be in place to maintain our permit is well over $1.2 million. So at this point, I'm like, you know what, just take our accounts, because I know we're not going to be able to find the funds within the department. That I'm going to need the Secretary of Finance's help to corral any available funding sources to ensure that these priority contracts are not held back. So as much as I would like to maintain these accounts, short of new revenue stream, we're going to have to just all buckle down and work with each other, the different government offices, agencies, departments, the like, because we're all going to feel the pinch tremendously. Okay, with that, Mr. Chairman and members, I would yield to this body to ask questions. We do have a lot of information available to give.
Thank you, Secretary Yumo, and thank you and welcome to your team that are with us this afternoon. I would also like to recognize the presence of S.A. Villagomez on behalf of OMB. So, members, if you have any questions, she's here to assist. Let me just start off with your FTEs right now. Aside from solid waste, there's only one vacant that I see that is being funded. Has that position been filled?
I'll have my Director of Administrative Services, Pete Camacho, testify to that and to the other FTEs. Thank you.
Okay.
Under what division are you asking? sir?
Building safety official.
Sir, currently that position is been reannounced. It has been reannounced continuously. Um, we haven't had any applicants that has met the qualification for a licensed engineer as required by law. We've received a lot of applicants, but like I said, none of them met the requirement. We're hoping, we're still hoping to satisfy that requirement under our building safety code. Miss Yvonne Tinor, she's our longtime employee. She's not a licensed engineer architect as required by statute, but she has a lot of experience, and she's mentioned a lot of times to management, and she's and to us, and we're very hopeful and keeping our fingers crossed that we do find candidates that are interested in applying and filling that position.
Is this position required by any of your grants or any other requirements that you must have, or is this something that can be taken off?
The position is by law requires that it'll has to be a licensed architect or engineer or an ICBO certified. So,
Right,
like
but
I
in
s-
terms of any regulations or from EPA or any grant requirements, do we need this position right now?
we do need a position. I mean, we receive a lot of, uh, you know, um, uh, plans and designs, and especially big developments, sort of like superstructures. For example, like um, like IPI or anybody intending to build a hotel or major development. Uh, we need somebody there that can really, when they look at the plans and stuff, they can really dissect that and make sure that whatever that's being built, it's built safe, and so that when we do issue the permit, we don't have any complications. But
Okay.
yeah, I would have, I would think that that kind of position is really critical, and we need somebody with a licensure to ensure that whoever that's taking the helm, not only guides our inspectors, our guys that are doing the permit, and if there's any um you know issues regarding the constructions, somebody can be there to guide the department in regards to those issues.
Yeah, if I may add, Mr. Chairman, is that if you look at the Building Safety Code Division, we actually only have one engineer, and this person, Mr. Raul Hildago, is actually an electrical engineer. We don't have any other engineers. That's why this position's the announcement is on a rolling basis, because once we're able to find someone, we want to be able to plug that person in. We're also working with the Office of Grants Management to try to utilize TAP grant, but that can only go so far. They can only advise, but we want to be able to convert. So, as we all know, I know Senator Paul Manglonia, the engineer himself. It's very difficult to find engineers at the wages that is even posted.
So why hasn't the increase been requested?
Right. So the reason being is that we don't want to inflate and not be able to recruit. We want to be able to recruit with other available means through assistance, but be able to convert them over. At the same time, some of my engineers, like in highway, they're not all 100% federally funded, because once they are, they cannot be utilized technically to
Right.
to
But
float around.
if you're publishing the position at a 65,000 that
Yeah.
requires a certified, did you say an engineer, right?
Right.
I mean, of course you're not going to get the qualified applicants, and so shouldn't there be a salary that meets that ask.
Um, Thank you for mentioning that. I know that due to a lot of our budgetary needs and a lot of the cuts, um, from what I know from a lot of the engineering firms out there, and personally when I talk to them, says a range of maybe like on 100,000, 120,000 would probably be um, a figure that
Like a
might.
starting pay for someone with, yeah, and so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Shouldn't the request be at 100,000 as opposed to 65,000? That way, you may see qualified candidates, and so. Thank you. And then the rest of your FTEs are listed under solid waste. As we've heard from Rhoda and Tinian's DPW, there has been a lot of issues with solid waste, especially because a lot of these positions became vacant after budget was submitted or in the process of, so therefore they weren't included. So, what if I can ask? Can you come back with a list of those vacant positions that are currently in the process of being filled or are already filled but are on a probationary period, and what those figures are, so that could be something that can be considered and included in the budget?
I have something here right now that I've prepared
Okay.
for Tinian and Rora.
And these are inclusive of those that are like on a pending status awaiting for
Actually,
budget?
they've made the announcement came out. They have an eligible list. They've made a selection. The issue here right now, for example, like in Tinian, they've made two selections to fill an equipment operator for position. The problem is you can't get certified because there's funding for this fiscal year, but for the next fiscal year they don't have the funds.
Right.
But I've got the names of that individual that was selected, so they can
With the salary.
put it in.
And then I know I spoke with the secretary about this yesterday. Have we already begun the process of taking them on a probationary period?
As a matter of fact, Saipan, we also have one that they're doing the announcement period and during the budget preparation. When we did receive the eligible list, we have one that's actually in probationary status currently, and we would like to, like I said, I have a list of those from Saipan, Tinian, and Rora that are currently under announcement, and then those that are currently been selected. So I can happily provide that.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. So you're saying now that you have one that's on a probationary period. So why hasn't that been extended to Rhode and Tinian?
There, for Tinian, there it's stuck at budget office basically. The reason why is because they have funding for this fiscal year, but for the next
Correct.
fiscal year, they, unless there's a budget for it, I believe it's only budgeted for $1.
Right.
So
So the one that you have for Saipan, is that the accountant position, or
yes, it is.
And that individual has already started work
She is working right now.
on a probationary period?
Yes, but she's only, allowed to or funded all the way down to September 30th
Right.
this fiscal year.
Yeah. No, but back to my point is that person, your accountant, has already begun work on a probationary period
Yes,
because they're dollar funded next year. But why? What happened to the Rhode and Tinian?
Rod Tinian,
positions.
they've made a selection, and when they're running the documentation, but right now it's stuck at OMB. It's because of the dollar amount, and then taking into consideration that it's for next fiscal year. There's not
So
enough
the
to fund it.
accountant got approved through OMB except for the other positions? Is
Yeah,
that
for
what
the
I'm
other
hearing?
two, and then we got for Rod and Tinian, they want to announce it. The problem is the same thing.
I think they've announced it already. They selected individuals, but the problem was the OMB.
the one for Rora, I believe it's in the announcement process, but it's stuck. It hasn't come full circle to OPM. I mean, not. I'm sorry, I take it back. It's at OPM, and then after that it'll go to OMB. But once it reaches OMB,
I think it already reached OMB. That's what I'm
Okay.
saying, and so
Yeah.
that was a concern there.
and then the one for Tinian, for the landfill, the solid waste landfill supervisor, that one has to go for a reannouncement because they didn't have any qualified applicants
Yeah.
to meet the positions.
I mean, Mr. Chairman, I mean, this is one way of getting away from the so-called bulk FTE. Do administrative language that says, I'm going to give this department 5 FTEs, but we'll leave it up to you to find the funding. Because there's zero operational funds, our special accounts are going to be utilized. putting a position and putting $1 is the same thing. You will not work beyond that period because there's no funds.
Yeah, thank you. And our intention is to put in those funds, and
Right.
so that's why we're asking for the list, and that's why we're requesting that they could be considered on the probationary period in the event the committee is able to allocate funding for those positions.
Sure, OMB would, Ms. Villa Gomez would like to answer on our behalf.
Good afternoon, members and fellow colleagues. What I would recommend is because the employee is currently occupying a position, but other employees that are in a similar situation, we can still hire on the current year because there's funding available for the current year. But what prohibits us to go beyond the fiscal year is because of that $1 FTE. So the recommendation is the hiring authority should inform the employee if they're willing to continue to accept that position, if they're going to accept that position, that we hire them on a limited term. Because currently we don't know what the end result of this budget is going to be, whether funding will be made available. We're willing to accommodate the needs of the agency, but come FY 2025, it's going to be different because, like I said, the determination of how the budget is, the outcome of the budget will be, that would be how we would move forward. We cannot continue to allow them to occupy a position when funding is not available unless the department has other sources of funding, like the
Yeah,
special revenue account.
Understood, but so like, because what I'm hearing is that already that what you're saying, it has been applied to one position here in Saipan, but it hasn't been extended to the other positions. And so I think some of these prospective employees understand that the risk that they're going to take is that it is a limited term employment. Additionally, basically all I'm asking is go ahead and submit the list of those vacant positions that were in the process or are in the process of being filled. A lot of what we've heard from Road and Tinian is that there's this disconnect that on the date they've submitted a request, or I'm not too sure they're familiar, but a request to fill up these vacant positions. It takes days and months to get a response back, and so who do we fault? We can't fault the departments for making the effort to trying to request to fill those positions when the delay is happening, whether it be OPM secretary or your office. And so again, it's all for consideration if we can get those lists and see how we can assist. I know Tinian, for example, is especially asking for these positions because of the increase in activities and because of the need for those positions. And so if you can just share that, and then we'll certainly consider how we can address that when it comes to allocation for those positions. I know that we just received copy of the House's version of the budget proposal, and they've suspended a lot of the earmarks that of the accounts that you're currently using to operate. Do you have the most recent data as to what your balances are on those revolving fund accounts, and what are those accounts?
Yes, I have. For the building safety code, which is the administrative fees, I have here a budget report that it's showing available of 255,000
As of what date?
Up to July.
As of July?
Yes.
Do you know
7
how
months.
much have been expensed out of that account in the current fiscal year?
There's 180.
That you've used up?
Yeah.
But that still leaves you a balance of 255, correct?
Yes.
And
210.
do you know on average how much, or maybe what you project to collect for the entire fiscal year currently?
Well, right now, what I have on the collection from the beginning of this fiscal year. Hold on. Here. It was only 69,000
That you've
for
collected?
the beginning of this fiscal
So a
year.
lot
up
of these
to
were
August.
balances from prior years.
Prior year. The receivables, you mean?
No, I mean,
How much we collected?
most of your current balances were from prior years. Is that correct?
Hmm.
Okay. What other accounts you have?
And road maintenance. The one that I printed out from the budget, what we have right now is 1,708,000
Are these restricted funds?
restricted.
I'm actually using that for streetlights.
Yes,
And ours
How much will you obligate for streetlights, and how much will be available for other uses
estimated like a million
for streetlights?
a year.
annually, yes.
Okay, so you haven't used this account currently for any other expenses?
Yes, we somewhere 1,300,000.
You've used about a million and 1.3 million. Is that
Yes,
in the
because
current fiscal year?
utility itself is 1 point we're using for a year.
Okay. And are these collected from the driver's licenses and
45%.
Yes,
It's 45% to the department, 45% goes to DPS, 10% goes to CUC.
so everything collected in this account is the 45% of those fees?
yes.
Okay. And what other accounts?
That's all I
Is
have.
there a technical services revolving account? Is that separate?
No.
No.
Is there a... I know solid waste has been suspended, but the balance that we have under secretary, from the report they received from the secretary's office, there's a balance of 869,000. Are you aware of that?
Solid waste?
Okay, that's the solid waste, 867,483, but we're projecting a deficit of 123,256, just so that we can deal with what we need to operate the transfer station and the landfill. This is why I was saying earlier that the tipping fee account, honestly, it's short. It's better if I work with the Secretary of Finance. You have full access to the account. I just need to make sure that critical contracts are being processed. Next year, the landfill operator agreement, the contract is coming up for a new RFP, and we're expecting with inflation that it's going to shoot up higher. And currently we're paying about $98,000 a month to the operator just to manage the landfill. Unless if this body wants this department to take it back.
Maybe you can make that a separate proposal. The 255,000 that you currently have in that account, how much, if we maintain the provision on suspending the restrictions on on revolving accounts, with the understanding that if we proceed with the suspension of these earmarks for future years, how long would this 255 last you? And if I can understand, Secretary, the 45%, is that just exclusively for stipend?
No, it's combined. That's why when it was brought to my attention, that's when I
So is there a sub account or like a percentage?
no.
That will,
What I've done is I've asked the respective RDs to reach out to the respective DPS, for example, Rhoda and DPS Tinian, to get me receipt numbers, date of transaction from the beginning of the fiscal year to the present, and once we concur with finance, then I can take those fees and
okay, but there's no like sub accounts that was
no
established.
sub-accounts.
Okay, or not even a percentage in statute that
no
allocates.
no
Okay.
percentage in statute.
So back to my question: how will this 255 support your operations for the next fiscal year? I mean, you've only spent 180,000 of it currently, and so it seems like it's more than enough. So that will address all your operational needs.
Yeah. Out of that road maintenance account, we also use some of those fundings to also pay for our utilities for our buildings and for our lease agreement.
Right, but if
For the
I'm
office
saying
rental.
that currently for the current fiscal year you've already spent 180, so if that's your average, then next fiscal year would seem like more than sufficient to cover your expenses for next fiscal year. And if that's the case, SA Villagomez, I've heard some issues with being able to use revolving accounts to cover personnel. Is that an issue?
In the current public law 23-09, there was flexibility that was provided, but not to personnel. It was just to the other
So it would
operating
just have to be
costs.
clarified then, if
Yes,
that's going to
I
be
think in House Bill 2315, I believe House Draft 1 or House Substitute 1, they included that personnel.
okay. Thank you.
For the overall expense for our operations, we expense like 1,000,003. That's including for utility, rentals, any other operations that were expensive.
But some of these were covered under the road maintenance account,
Yes,
correct?
it's all under the road maintenance that we're using right now, because we don't have any operations under the general funds.
All right. No, but the building safety, you would still have a significant
We still
balance
do
in there.
use it for their operations, but
Okay.
not most of the
The other divisions.
yeah.
Some of those fees are used for travel.
Yes.
And just to add on to that, Senator Maglonia, especially with TNN situation where they don't have any building inspectors, TNN mayor has also requested DPW that not only that they're going to be assigning certain staff from their workforce to be able to come down to Saipan for quick training, but we don't expect them to be experts overnight. So we are expecting a lot of our employees to be traveling back and forth to
Tinian.
Tinian and also to Rora, not only for building inspector but for other issues, sort of like for rock cutting issues, road issues, things of those nature. So they might not be expended right now, but eventually, those are kind of like stuff that we foresee.
Okay. Thank you. At this time, I recognize any member for their questions. Recognize Senator Paul.
Secretary, or it's good that Mrs. V is here. Special revenue fund, is that showing here that you have 18.1 million, right? is that a money that's available strictly for public works, or is that just showing there, but we can reprogram and it's not actually used up by public works? I'm just wondering. Because out of the 18.1 million, right, according to this information, you have from public law 2039 and other public laws, and then you have the building code, then you have solid waste, and then you have technical services, no? So all of those, roughly 18 million, is that clearly defined as to who owns that every year? Or is that like just floating there and depends on how much public work requests for it and they use it, and then the balance goes to the general fund or in a revolving fund? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to understand this.
I'm sorry, Senator. I was looking up Public Law 1745, and I didn't catch your question.
Yeah, it's just on the special revenue fund. I guess a simple question. Whatever we gather there, is that for your usage for whatever the actually original intended purpose of the law? For example, for building safety code, solid waste, technical services, and road license fee, whatever. So,
yes,
so at the end of the year, if we put in X amount, is that strictly for public works use?
yes, for the intended purpose.
So, would you have a record as to under this revenue fund, how much did we get last year and where did it go? Is that something easy to generate?
Yes, that
Uh,
should-
Yeah.
These are all actually fundings that are given for the department, which is under the Saipan local law and public laws.
Okay.
And of course, with technical, they have so much of Saipan local law that it's given to them for roads and
Also, they have further a need for further appropriation. It's not actually earmarked, put in a special account, or
it's all included in the special accounts.
yeah, but
so
the special
besides-
account, some of which have to be appropriated. Is that what
Yes.
you're saying?
Yeah.
So, but still, you can give us, like for example, of all these laws, an appropriation or earmarking, how much went to where and how much was generated last year. And I'm just trying to think because, for example, the solid waste, right? There's 7.6 million. So maybe my question should be, if there was a 7.6 million and the balance is 6.8, right? From the MARPI financial assurance, that's I don't know what is that, but it must be an account, right? So you have, is that 7.6 what you normally generate in a year?
no, no.
What is this?
That's a cumulative amount over the years since the inception of the financial assurance mechanism, the law. that
Okay, so you have,
created that
what's the
special
balance in
law.
there now?
7,000,006.
Yeah, that's-
Okay, so out of that,
combined.
you're gonna use how much
we
this year?
can't. It's restricted.
Yes.
Restricted by law?
Yeah, because the intent of that account is to reserve that funds for the closure and post-closure maintenance of the landfill. Once, for example, cell number 1 closes, I can't use that for any other purpose. My understanding is, although there's funds on paper, financially speaking, it's been borrowed.
It's in the cloud.
It's in the cloud
So
by prior administrations.
also, so how much would you be able to use in this fiscal year from solid waste funds?
Right now, it's only the tipping fees. That's whatever.
And
we
how much is
collect.
that?
We projected to collect
Senator, the average collection for tipping fee is roughly about 700,000
A year?
a year annually. It used to be more or less. Right now, it's around 700,000.
Okay.
Yeah. Although the amount is showing, like the overall amount is showing like 7.6 million. Part of like the secretary mentioned, part of that financial assurance issued the mechanism, right? The solid waste has certain requirements under the permit condition. So not only that, we have to run the landfill and the transfer station, which are both permitted. Like the secretary mentioned earlier, that part of the permit conditions requires groundwater testing, pest control, leachate
Yeah, so I was going to
management.
get to that.
Yeah.
I know the secretary mentioned you spend about 100 grand every month to run the solid waste
Right.
operation, right?
So we have
Landfill, just the
yeah,
landfill.
Or just the landfill
yeah.
part, not counting what?
Not counting the transfer station.
Transfer station. Okay.
Yes.
So it's not enough then, right? So how did you manage to run it last year? How did you, or this year, how did you manage to make ends meet? I just want to know.
Okay, so the prior administration attempted to inject into the
How much did the
financial-
prior administration inject to supplement or subsidize?
it wasn't really a supplement. They identified ARPA funds.
How much?
I think it was close to 3 some million.
Okay, so
But
that's
it
where
was-
actually I'm getting at.
Yeah, it
Nai. We have the comprehensive integrated solid waste management plan.
Right.
That's I assume it's done already, right? And
It's being reviewed. Actually, the contractor that is putting that plan together is on the final phases of having the contract.
so once
the
that,
plan
let's say we
published.
finish that this year, right? So still part of 25. I mean, it will be in October, right? So can we, with the approval of this, that should subsidize, right, your operation at the landfill?
Asada funds, Senator.
Yeah, Sandra funds.
Yeah, the Asada funds doesn't cover for operational costs. Right now, we have what's called a comprehensive integrated solid waste management plan that is scheduled for a deadline completion of March of 2025. Right now, we're waiting for the comprehensive plan to be submitted to.
Yes, so
within
my
OPD.
question is, if that's approved, we can tap into that, right?
They have to follow the comprehensive management plan, and part of those plan are
So there's not in
are-
that
are fi-
plan for the
there is a focus for zero waste. So the comprehensive management plan covers certain things that would be for Tinian, for Rora, and for Saipan.
no, but I'm
encompassing
talking
zero
about
waste.
here because that's a major impact. Né? So if you have zero waste plan and all that, surely you can then take some of that money that you're reserving to cover the sales, because that means now
Yeah.
you don't need to spend that, right?
Right. For
Right away?
for part of the comprehensive plan is to cover for the rehabilitation of cell 2, which is completed already. Part of the funds also would be able to cover for the construction of cell 3.
Okay. So anyway,
Um,
I don't want to
yeah.
go into much in depth there. I just want to see the opportunity from this comprehensive, from the Asada fund, any potential funding that we
Yeah.
can supplement.
Senator, let me. There's a misnomer. ASADRA actually means something. ASADRA stands for Additional Supplemental Appropriation for, and this is the kicker, Disaster Relief Act.
Well,
Okay, that
with the
means-
Asada fund or from the
Yeah.
$52 million
That is
EPA
That is
funding,
a
right?
ASADRA
That's
fund, right?
I'm saying, is there opportunity, because now they're just waiting for this comprehensive plan, and I'm just checking, because if we can supplement 5 million from there, that would go a long way, right?
Right.
mean,
I totally understand where you're coming from, Senator, but the SADRA, we have to be very choosy in our wording because
okay, so maybe later, not today, but next week,
oh, sure.
give the chairman some idea how we can understand better so that we can
Okay.
see the
Yeah,
option.
I think
The other,
more
I just want
appropriate.
to move forward on the technical services. Why is it that we cannot charge that to the projects? Why is it that you have to spend for technical services division when you bid, right? You take 10% or I don't know how much percentage of the 702 money to set aside for technical, right? I mean, we're not doing that, or it's not enough.
The TSD, by nature, because we're the stewards of all roadways and um, building structures, right? The department has to provide certain services. For example, the bureau reached out to us to assist in putting together a RFP for the upgrade of all the air conditioning systems here, right? We didn't charge a fee.
But when you got the money,
that.
right, you could have included in there and just reimburse yourself. I mean, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
please, when you do an RFP, always be, put that in the back of your head to put the charge for, your average cost throughout the year.
We do
for-
charge at the delegation level when there's delegation appropriation. I believe it's 1%. In fact, let me have our acting director come on up here.
Okay. Well,
I'll have her-
I don't want to prolong it. I'm just saying, look at that and make sure that as much as possible we get
it's 5%, by the way.
expenditure right away.
Right.
And then I agree with the chairman when he said that for trying to recruit an engineer or other professionals, try to get the average or prevailing wage, because we're just wasting our time trying to believe that there's going to be one that apply one day. I mean, I hear with all the construction going on and the salary going up for all the different categories, right, and position, 65 for a professional engineer, nobody would come for 65. I know I was told CPA was trying to get a professional engineer for 120,000, and they don't even want. Nobody wants. So good luck in your search. But for other positions also, I'm just saying to watch out for that. This one, a little bit outside of the budget, but it affects financial. Somebody raised this to my attention. When you have a project that you bid out, maybe a example, a $1 million project, $500,000 project, you normally, secretary, create a selection committee, right, to evaluate the bids, right? And that comes from within your own organization, right, department?
Yes, we and also the entity that's going to be the beneficiary of the project, if for example,
So CNCA and Public
Right.
Works staff. So
We'll
one
have-
from CNCA and 3 or 4 from Public Works.
yes.
And how do you select the employees in Public Works that will be part of that?
I leave it up to the director of TSD to make that
Yeah.
decision.
So I
don't
just
get-
want to put on record
Mhm.
that what I'm hearing is sometimes when you have 5 evaluators, all the other 4 are like, about the same ratings. Then one would be very high for this one company and very, very low for the other company, so that they try to even the numbers at the end of the day to get somebody to be the successful bidder. So what do you do if that's the case, where 5 are like, average everyone, and then one is just 1 point out of 10 when everybody's giving that like 6 or 7, and then another one is always getting 6, 5, and then all of a sudden 15, if there's such a thing as 15. My point is, it appears, right? So isn't then the outlier, they call that? Don't you remove that and just keep the 4 and average it? Or
Well,
what's the next procedure?
Yeah, it is notated, but I am reminded that and thankful that there is still additional layers. Procurement still needs to review our suggestion, and then at the same time, it still needs the AG's approval. The rating does not stay behind at the department. It actually follows the contract. so everybody involved, even the governor, can see.
Okay, but I guess I wish you can come up with a regulation that says everybody grades at the same time and nobody sees the other grades, and then goes to one person who then calculates it, rather than you open everyone's bid and then the last person is the one to tally, and then they change the numbers.
Yeah,
Is there a policy that if you're all of you four are evaluators, you evaluate at the same time, same day, submit it in, and that's it?
I've just si Peter. I told Peter basically reach out to the AG's office and see if that's within my authority, and I will make the
Yeah,
administrative.
please, so that you
change.
can put a level
I'll put a
playing
memo
field for
out,
all our
yes.
bidders. No. Okay. Finally, on Route 10 on Rota, is that moving? I know this is not directly a budget issue, but it's gonna be, because we're gonna have to hire lawyers and.
Yes, I'll have Gani come up and speak briefly to that, Senator.
Sarge, go ahead and have him sit by the table here so that we don't have to squeeze in.
Good afternoon. Okay, regarding the Route 10, we're coordinating with the AG regarding the termination of contract with Radiocom. And we sent the letter on Tuesday, that is August 5th. And we give them 10 days to 10 working days to respond on the letter. If they don't respond, then we have to go through with the the bonding company, so to take over the project, so they can solicit which contractor they want to do the project, and that's the procedures that we have in place right now.
I just ask that you please give it your full attention, because I want to tell you that this project started since 8 years ago, since we started the project, and there's been delays and over the years, and that's why the secretary is saying it's always showing that every year we still have 2 million, no, because that's the same 2 million for the last 8 years. So I hope that we can work with the AG seriously and move this forward, because we have actually other projects that are being held, Director, that so we appreciate your help if we can keep knocking on the AG, because I don't know, this project is just way too long. 8 years to do 4 miles of not even actual road construction. Is most of it is just resurfacing, no? So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Paul. And we're running out of cement, so. Senator Mandela?
Just clarifying questions. I got two, and then one is for the engineer. I know Senator Manglonia asked if not having an engineer is compromising any of you guys' existing projects. I mean, are we in violation of any regulation out there, EPA?
No, Senator. Fortunately, the way the law is structured, we are the authority that issues, but the permits and the review process. But we do require that upon submittal of engineering drawings and any type of engineering related documents, that it be signed off by a practicing engineer on the part of the applicant.
Okay, so and that leads me to my next question, that because you need that services, you still outsource it, correct? You just can't hire within, but you outsource the engineer for any stamp or signature that's required for any review of the project itself.
No, we don't.
So it stays with DPW.
Yeah, it stays with DPW. I can, but again, it's going to cost more because to have engineers plan review, it costs a lot of money, almost as much as just having it done in-house. So we are mindful of that, and that's why when some agencies and offices, if they have federal funds to upgrade a facility or to build a structure, if it's if funding is available for them to hire an outsource, for example, the A&E, we encourage that, because if we were to do it, it's going to take a lot of time. We're limited in our capacity because of the lack of PEs.
And so then the next question would be the 65,000 threshold that you guys. I'm not sure if that's a OPM standard, or is it just a department standard, or is there room to increase that?
Yeah,
Just curious.
Yeah, it's a department because the position is not civil service.
So it's not civil
Yeah,
service.
if the
It's-
position is civil service, it'll be a different animal. But again, we want to be able to have that flexibility, because we are publicizing on a rolling basis this FTE. And again, like I mentioned earlier, we're also reaching out to Office of Grants Management to see if we can avail of any technical assistance funding. We were fortunate that we received a grant for building code to have capacity building training for all the staff, all the folks there. It's about $173,000. I can provide you with the breakdown of how we intend to spend. It also includes training for Rhoda and Tinian staff to fly over as well. And with this funding, we should be able to push harder to really look for a PE. So it has not left my desk. It's still a hot topic, because we do need a PE on board to assist not just building code, but also TSD, federal highway. It's always good to have these professionals at the ready.
Okay, thank you. And so again, on that 65,000, no, it's really just the department that if you guys have the funding, you guys can increase that to try and attract a more competitive.
If I do find, if Peter gives me
and it's a funding issue, right?
Yes, if he tells me that there's an opportunity, we do have a person interested, then I will do everything within my
Understood.
my power to onboard.
And I just wanted to point that out because it's something that we can probably think
Right.
about in terms of
Yeah, and
looking at for, because it's the issue is, even if we want to attract 200,000 or put it up at 200,000, it's where do we find the money to
Right.
to
Right, and if
fill
this
that position?
right, and if this position was zero funded, $1,
Yeah.
that's even a harder challenge. I would rather say that there is a pot of money. It's not much, but if we can do a 50-50 match or a 75-35, right, with a
So
federal
here's
grant,
another
that would
follow on
really
to
help.
that. The certification of these projects, because we don't have a certified engineer, is that compromising any project that that's in existence? I mean,
No.
Is there any legal issue that we might face in the future because it's not a certified engineer signing off on these projects? Just
Right,
clarify.
like I said, we at the present we throw back the to the our clients, our customers, that they need to seek professional engineers for these drawings. There is a section in public law. I'm sorry, in public works that requires, if indigent resident comes and says, "Hey, I have a piece of property. I need help to build a single-family dwelling," I am actually required to have an engineer provide assistance.
Oh, wow.
But in most cases, I try to encourage these folks to go see an MHC. There's a lot of homes that have already have the engineering stamps ready to go.
So you can utilize those expertise as well.
Well, the plans, because it's already been
Okay,
certified.
Okay.
Right.
And it's similar to some of the stuff that we've done in the past, where there's already a blueprint. It's certified.
Exactly.
We don't need to reinvent the wheel and just
Exactly.
move forward. And in a lighter, I guess, more lighter note, and since we're talking about engineering, maybe we can bring those plans up to Senator Poe's office and utilize his expertise for a change.
Right.
But
He's more than welcome to come and moonlight.
But yeah, just to line up the mood. Also, I wanted to ask about this mention about the solid waste, this 7.6 million that's supposedly in the cloud and supposedly exhausted, because it's showing on our records. It's showing that still 6.8 is available, but what you just stated earlier was it's in the cloud and it's already committed or exhausted.
Okay, so last year after I came in as secretary, I did look at this issue, the financial assurance, and what made me come about with a legislative fix on a full faith and credits, because of the fact that EPA requires proof. So even if the munis says 6.8, it requires the Secretary of Finance to sign a document stating that there is 6.8 million sitting in a separate account, ready at the ready to be.
So whether it's exhausted, it's there. I mean,
no,
per
see that,
the
and that's the
agreement.
thing. The secretary cannot sign, and she told me that she will not sign because she can't guarantee that the funds is there.
Okay.
And
That's-
that's when I
But
said,
that's
okay,
money still owed to.
That's money still owed to
Owed
that.
to that
So
account.
regardless of where it was utilized or if it was pulled, it's a commitment that we still have to
Right.
ensure that when the time comes, we need to have
right,
that there.
because the mechanisms for financial assurance that's actually published in the Federal Code of Regulations is we have to have cash in the bank, we have to have bond,
Okay.
or we have to have some instrument, insurance, right? But we have to pay for those things, and I really don't want money to be sitting idle if it can be utilized elsewhere. That's why I was creating enough and got
And I think that's
enough attention that
to Senator Poe's point.
Right.
No, he's just pretty much trying to figure out how we can shift those if we can and utilize them in other projects.
And,
But you stated earlier that we can't do that. So
yeah,
whether
and
it's there or not.
I've pretty much abandoned trying to, I don't even salivate at that 6.8. I just look at it and just it's just paper
Understood.
money.
Last thing, and this is to that Route 10 issue, specifically that pavement issue with the Radiocom, and I'm glad that it's mentioned, and it's a nightmare because people are constantly complaining about that issue, and I hope that you guys stay on top of that and try and make sure that we resolve that problem, because again, it's supposed to be a pavement, but it feels like it's a hill rather than a pavement. So anyways, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Mendiola. Sorry, Vice Chair, before just a quick clarification. Ms. Vicky, so the percent of allocation is flexible, correct? So because in ours, when we adopt the budget, it basically just lumps it all together. But for example, like the building safety official right now is allocated at 87.5%, but if they choose to use a 65,000 as a 50% match, they can pull from somewhere else, correct?
Correct.
And maybe for future references, I mean, I don't know how you were able to do it, Secretary, but you were able to get an unfunded or a vacant position funded, and so in the upcoming budget, maybe try to increase that, because I know prior to you coming in, Secretary, when I was the chair for Ways and Means in the House, the issue was always the ceiling, but then because engineers are exempt, or what do you call this? Maybe exempt from that requirement, you're able to have that flexibility to raise that salary, and so. But in any case, I think that's the provision to allow revolving accounts to be able to supplement some of these salaries. I think that's something that we'll also support here in the House. And so I have a few more questions I want to ask, but for the first round, I'll recognize the Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chairman, and good afternoon, Secretary S.A. Villagomez, and to your team. Thank you for being here to answer some of our questions. I think we are all under the understanding that your department's operations was zero funded, right? And you're going to rely on your special revenue accounts to fund your operations. We also are on the same page as far as the assumptions, and the premise behind this budget hearing is to listen and hear what the needs are of the department and all the plans that are coming down the pipeline. So my line of questions will be directed based on what was on the citizen-centric report for FY23. And so under upcoming projects, I see that there are 7 projects listed under that. And 2 of them particularly got my attention. And the first one is the engineering design cell number 3 for Marpi landfill completed, but awaiting for funding to begin construction. So I'd like to start with that and ask what is the status of that.
So right now, Senator Magofnia, we're waiting for the comprehensive inter-island solid waste master plan to be finalized, and the date of finalization that we're expecting will be March 2025. So right now, the completion of percentage right now is at 40%.
Okay.
So once we receive the draft proposals, we're expected to review and provide comment, and that would be sometime during the month of October.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are you saying that funding has been identified?
That's coming out of the ASADA funds.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. So that's fine then. And then the next one was the architectural design for Kekman and Asgono Convenience Center, complete, awaiting for any available funding that can be tapped for construction.
Okay, so that was not approved by CIP for CIP funding. What was approved was for the Asgono Convenience Center,
Okay.
and I believe we are in the NEPA process. We're just awaiting that to complete, and we will be able to move forward. So that's the Asgono Convenience Center is moving along, but we are required to wait for the NEPA. Cagman again, unfortunately, was not funded, but in the interim, I've asked Solid Waste. I've asked Ken O'Don to make sure that we're still actively managing the property, because once we're able to clear NEPA, I know there's an issue with a endangered species sighting in that area.
Okay.
But if that can be mitigated, then we'll keep it active. As you may be aware, it was last used to deal with the debris that was collected from the prior typhoon. And we want to keep using it as a staging area, at least in the short term, so
Okay.
that it stays active.
Okay. So I'm not familiar with what the convenience center is. Can you enlighten me with that?
It's
that is?
basically a transfer station like the one you see down in Lower Base. The only difference is that we will not allow any commercial haulers to drop off
So
waste
more
collection.
residential?
It's just strictly for the residents
Okay.
of the area.
Okay. And so those were the 2 projects that stood out for me. What I didn't see, and I don't know if there's any plans, but I've been getting a lot of calls regarding the Kekman Road going down. Are there any plans to install a guardrail? So when you're coming down Kekman, right, to your right, it's a pretty steep. I think it's like a drainage, right? But it's pretty steep, and there's what they tell me is that there's no ample lighting. So in the evening, when it's darker or when it's raining, it can be unsafe. And so are there any plans for DPW to install some guardrails going down that road?
Thank you for that question, sir. Let me call up Engineer Henry Bautista. He's the lead primary engineer for all federally recognized highways in the CNMI.
Okay.
And he would have your answer.
Okay.
If I were to answer you, I'd probably butcher it. So.
Can I just stand? Good afternoon. Anyway, this is only a short answer. So we have this federal highway program funding for island-wide safety improvement.
Okay.
So that Kagman guardrail can be included there. We are still working on it.
So it is included in the plan to
We will
install.
include that as part of that highway safety improvement.
When can the residents of Cagman expect to see the guardrail installed?
We will work on that on the next fiscal year,
For FY25 or FY26?
26.
Okay, so they're not going to see a guardrail anytime soon.
Not yet. Yeah.
Do you not see that as a safety concern? It poses a lot of safety concerns there.
So we're doing assessment island-wide now, and that will be part of our scope of work.
Right. So what I'm trying to say is that we need to be more proactive than reactive. The last thing we want to do or hear is that somebody gets into an accident, and so whenever safety is a concern, I think that those are some of the things that we cannot put off. We cannot put off until 2 years from now to put in proper safety measures to protect our residents. So I would like to recommend that you please find a way to expedite that and not wait 2 years from now, or because the last thing we want is for an accident to occur and then we put something in.
Okay.
Okay.
We will visit the site and put that on our priority.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is so the Garapan hotel street lights, again, staying within the theme of safety, right? I've mentioned this to you before. The street, I think Coral Tree Avenue, is completely dark at night. And again, going back to the safety of our residents and even our visitors that utilize the walkways there. I know that when I spoke to you before, you had mentioned that it's a funding issue, right? With CUC trying to pay up those accounts that have balances, probably arrears. But can I get a status on that?
Okay, so right now, our goal is just to wait for that project to come to completion. I did reach out to Mario Iglesias, who's been assigned the management for that project by USA Fanther, and once it's done, we're gonna go and assess. I've actually asked Division of Energy to see if there's any way we can have that office provide some kind of solar lighting in areas that will badly need it.
Yeah.
The delegation, Precinct 3, has also indicated that they are inclined to also providing some delegation funds to address that issue, for example. So not trying to get in while it's still an active construction project. We're just waiting. It's almost completed, and once it's done, then we will go back and reassess, and we'll use whatever methodology that can be quickly deployed to get that addressed.
Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
I understand that construction is ongoing, but there has to be a temporary solution, right? We cannot afford to compromise or put people at risk, because there's an ongoing construction taking place. And so I just want to be mindful of that. It has been brought to my attention many, many times by even our very own residents that frequent the place, that go to the restaurants and eat. It's pretty dark at night. And again, going back to the safety, we need to be mindful of that because we don't want to be reactive. We want to make sure that, I don't know how expensive it is to put temporary lighting there, but, it's just something that I'm sharing because that has been a recurring concern that's been coming my way.
Okay, I'll have my TSD look into it
Okay.
again and see if we can address
Thank
some
you.
sort of a temporary measure.
Thank you.
In the
The
interim.
the residents would really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you, Senator.
And then also, does DPW have any arrears with CUC?
Caught up, or are we still in arrears?
Well, right now we're still in the process of receiving billings, but there's
But does DPW have arrears with CUC?
we had one when we're still pending.
Do you remember what's the, like, roughly how much you guys are?
Hold on.
Yeah, I do recall the Secretary of Finance putting out a memo to all the departments
Okay.
and agencies to check arrears and
Okay.
Yeah, the latest that we have that we came out with finance, we owe CUC 103,000.
Okay, that's not
Yes,
not too bad.
but
compared to other departments.
upcoming, I mean, for the previous, we are getting, they are getting paid.
Okay, so
Yes.
you're pretty much current with your bills now, but you do have balances.
Yes, that
from
one is still
prior.
under.
Okay. And you guys are working with finance to reconcile those balances.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Senator, I'm also looking into a concern. It was brought up to me from a few insiders who had mentioned that CUC board may have actually approved a base rate that includes, meaning every rate, every customer of CUC actually pays a portion in their base rate
For street
utility
lights?
fee, a
Oh.
street light. So having that looked into, because it seems odd that they would be billing customers a portion of street lights and then at the same time bill 100% to this
Right.
department for the same activity.
So has CUC reached out to you?
It just came
Board.
to light just last week. So
But the board has already approved a rate that didn't even solicit comments or feedback from
Right.
your department?
So
Okay.
I'll get back to you
Okay.
on that. I do understand there's a PUC board member that had been voted by the House earlier this morning. So
Okay.
I will also be reaching out to PUC to confirm.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then so moving on to, okay. The developer's tax. What was the projected revenue for that for 2024? And then where are we with our actuals?
I'm sorry, Senator. Let me see if one of my staff here has information to the developer tax.
Alright.
Oh, you have that info? Because I honestly stopped following it since the suspension of the developer tax to its
Okay.
intended use. What I am working on is assessing developer tax on properties or projects on Tinian,
Okay.
something that the municipality of Tinian, spearheaded by Mayor O'Don,
Yes.
was actually asking me to make the assessment and then
Sure. 'Cause
submit
he
it.
did share that with me when we were on Tinian, and I'm glad to hear that, because if we can, generate revenues out of the contractors and not DoD per se, right? But it's subcontractors. That's another revenue stream for the CNMI.
Well, for the projects outside of the fence line, so to speak, the military area, those we are assessing as it's submitted. The Department of Finance actually does the collection.
Right.
It's their regulation. We're just
So were those
assessment,
assessment included in the FY25 revenue projections?
I believe there was an estimate. I'm not sure how it was put together. I did not.
Okay.
I was not advised on that
To
make comments.
to the vice chair's point, I think I guess we're concerned that the current fiscal year's projection, in comparison to next year's projection, has gone down.
My acting building code. She actually, we did have a conversation, and I asked her what's the of sentiment, what's the, how are the projects out there coming in or coming along, and she said that it's slow. It's really slow, and it's slowing. There's no signs of picking up.
Really?
Yes.
Is that what we're? I thought the activities have picked up on Tinian. Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, so what about for your building permit and inspection fees? What were your projections for this year, and then what is the actual so far?
Okay. Have a seat, Miss Tenorio.
Okay, what's your question again, Senator?
Oh, I wanted to know what was projected for FY24 for building permit and inspection fees.
Oh, okay. So I have here the numbers as of January 31. We have collected building permit fees and inspection fees total 82,402. And
As of January,
yeah, 31.
Okay.
Yeah.
you don't
We
have.
haven't I can provide you later on actually
Yes,
for
that would,
the rest of the month.
okay,
this
that would
year.
be great.
And so since
But
this
what
is the
was
budget
projected?
year,
Do you know what was projected for that for this fiscal year?
this is all what we have. We usually just count on the revenue that they turn in or the payment that they made. So we will calculate these fees, and then we just tally it from FY 2024, yeah, up to the present.
Okay, but
So this is what I have
okay,
right now.
right.
but
So
the
these are your actual
projection-
collections, the 84,000.
Yes,
But I was
yes.
asking what the projections were for this fiscal year.
I don't have that
Okay.
number right now.
Maybe can you provide it? to
Yes,
us
I
here?
will.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I
Okay.
have on that.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you. And then just I guess some just updates. So the the road pavings on Beach Road, I understand they're not really complete, right? They're not 100% complete, but I was just curious. You know those manholes that are sticking out? Is that supposed to be like that, or is it?
No, that's not the final
Okay.
grade, if you
Okay.
will. The reason why there's a difference is because there's still one more layer that needs to be laid, and that's
Okay.
the anti-skid.
Okay, and some people are asking,
Yes.
right?
I've had my engineers go out and required or have a GPPC mark the manholes with reflective markers so that drivers can see it and
Yes, that would be
avoid running it over to
Yeah.
prolong the life of their
sure.
vehicles. But it is a challenge because over time the reflectors do tend to dull out, the temporary reflectors. In fact, I've just had my highway guys send a note to GPPC and our project management team, go and assess all the cones and reflective barriers, to even include the flashing yellow lights at night, to make sure that they're operable and that they are to standard, because the dust, the mud can diminish the visibility.
Okay. You know that road in Garapan going up to Navy Hill? Is that part of your department's project?
The Navy Hill Drive?
Yeah,
up?
like right next to NMHC, that road there.
No, that's a project that I believe yeah, it's a sewer
Oh,
line
so
project.
it's a CUC
Yeah,
project.
CUC project.
Okay, so I'll address that with CUC then.
Yeah, in fact, oh yes,
Okay. And then but you guys pretty much kind of oversee the main roads, right? And sometimes the steel plates are there, and I have to tell you, like, my tires got slashed twice already, like the front and the back, and because the edge of the thing is kind of sticking out, it's not evenly placed, and it's really unsafe.
okay.
It can cause an accident, and
Sure.
especially for vehicles with kids inside the cars, so we want to be more mindful of things like that. And I don't know if people go out and inspect those things and kind of just make sure that it's safe on the road. But I just wanted to share that, because my tire got slashed twice already.
Yes, I'll have the department, my highway inspectors go and
Okay, thank you.
review all of those.
Okay. And then last but not least, it's kind of budget related. It could be, but I just thought I'd check with you. So there's a couple of proposed legislations coming from the House introduced by Rep. Manny Castro, and those it's House Bill 23-54. It's a recycling bill, and the other one is House Bill 23-18, and that's the Beverage Container Act. Both recycling, right? And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because, part of that legislation is proposing to designate DPW as the authority to oversee and enforce, and it comes into play with budget, because I would like to know, should these legislations pass the houses and get enacted into law, like, is that going to have any financial impact on your department, seeing that they didn't identify any funding source on these bills? I mean, they're great bills. I would totally support it, but I also want to be responsible when I make the decision to vote for it, because I don't want to set you guys up for failure, so.
Yes. Okay, so I did consult with Director Peter, who I believe had submitted comments to the House at the time of deliberation of the bill, and I asked him if he can share the same with your office. But I took it a step further, because there's a big disconnect. There's a missing link, and the missing link is how to properly collect these fees, which is basically a container beverage redemption value, or a container redemption value, a CRV. And it's one thing to put that in place for the retail sale of beverages that is either bottled water, bottles in general, cans, could be soft drinks and alcohol. The issue is that every other jurisdiction, and I noticed this, that have this program in place, I believe about 10 states, military installations within those states are actually actively collecting at the point of sale these CRVs, and then transmitting it to the state.
Most states do. Yes.
Right. So we don't have that, and that's the biggest issue, that it wouldn't be fair to collect it on the part of the private businesses in the Commonwealth, and not make it applicable to military installations. And military, the Department of Defense is very receptive. They are good stewards. They're very active in recycling programs and the like, but they just have to have the proper mechanism, the state law, if you will, that they can basically apply the CRV. I did reach out to Delegate Kalili, and I aired my concern, and he did tell me that he is receptive. In fact, he had told me that he looks forward to my letter, so that my letter in essence is to request his office's assistance to have the Department of Defense come back to us and say, hey, this is how we're doing it within the states that have this program. This is how it needs to be in order for the Commonwealth to avail.
Okay.
So I did find Department of Defense documents that speaks of the CRV. It was very tedious. I mean, it was difficult. I did have a challenge trying to hunt down these documents, SOPs within the commissary system, which includes the exchanges. So we're not asking more than just to play fair. We don't want to call it a tax, and this is one of the issues that I have with these legislations, that it should not be called a tax. It should be a fee, because we want the consumers to understand that the fee is temporary. You put an advance fee, but then the onus is when you surrender the can or the bottle, empty bottle, to a recycling facility, you will receive the fee back. So that's where we're at. And based on what I've already come across, I think it's safe to say that there maybe one of those legislations can move forward, but it's going to still need additional language to.
But it wouldn't have any impact on your budget?
Well, we don't want to use the fees collected for operations other than what's necessary, because I don't actually have to have department or solid waste expend. We
So
can.
there's no startup cost?
Well, because there are enough recycling facilities currently in place that can actually do the collection, and
Okay.
then when they submit proof of that collection in terms of tonnage or quantities, then I can instruct and authorize the Secretary of Finance, for
Okay.
example, to cut a check
Okay.
as they surrender the recycled items so that it can be shipped off.
Okay. So I just wanted to get on an understanding on that, because like I said, I am very much in support of the bill. I just don't want to push it forward and not make sure that there's funding for your department to actually start the program, right, and implement whatever needs to be implemented, and then start enforcing. So everything.
Yeah, right. Because it is going to be a challenge, Senator, because if the program here is lucrative, and I have come across certain states, California, for example, has a law that penalizes anyone who tries to transport cans from a nearby state that doesn't have this CRV program. Let's say Arizona, they ship these cans into California and then they redeem, right? It's a loss to the state because
so- So
right.
I would like to, I know this is a budget hearing, and I'm trying to incorporate this into this hearing, because I want to make sure that if we are going to proceed with this, and it's going to cost you additional funds, right, to oversee this, that it's reflected on your FY25 budget
Yeah.
somehow.
Right. Well, a good case in that we can lean on is when Office of Grant Management contracted Artman for the 5 for 5
Oh, yeah.
for 5
Yeah,
for
yeah.
5 program. They had the funds. They contracted Artman to facilitate the collection, and then Artman was paid for that services. That's something that
So
that
outsourcing it.
I right, outsource, because I don't want the Department of Public Works to become
Okay.
too involved in
Right.
in the waste stream.
Yeah.
We really need to just work on key elements. I was actually making a not a joke with you, but I was just I made a sarcastic statement, right, that maybe we should just take over the landfill and save ourselves 1.2 million, but really that would just mean that the state's gonna have to hire
And that's
direct
fine, yeah.
employees, and
Sometimes
we've
it makes-
gone away from that, and I think this system works.
Yes.
We really need to have this solid waste program
Okay.
spread out to the businesses out there, because we want them to be active, we want them to hire, we want them,
Yes.
we want the economy to
Create jobs.
Yeah, it'll
Yes.
create jobs
Okay.
and opportunities, right?
Okay. Thank you for that. And honestly, sometimes it just makes more sense and it's more cost effective to outsource certain programs and services than to take it on your own, right? So I just need to check look at the bill again and make sure that there's language in there that will make sure that that your department is allowed to
Yeah.
outsource, right?
And,
To make sure.
right. And lastly, like for example, Tinian has a really nice transfer station, but it's not being utilized properly. And for Rhoda and Tinian, I do know that their volume is not going to be at a level that will necessitate direct shipment of these recycled collected items out. It needs to come to Saipan first for additional merging of our stuff here, so that we can send out full container loads. But I want that mechanism to be properly set up so that we integrate this recycling activity, because Rhoda and Tinian does accumulate recyclable items, and we want to be able to manage that. Like right now, the Department of Defense, through their contractor, whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, they are actually utilizing our landfill. They are causing an impact because they're not allowed to dispose of any construction debris, packaging materials, and the like at the Tinian dump. It needs to be either directly shipped out of the Commonwealth, or what they've actually been doing is shipping it here. So there is an impact,
Okay.
because that means our landfill here is going to become full
Yes.
quicker.
Okay. Thank you for that. And just one last one. Rhoda, when we were in Rhoda, they mentioned that the solid waste place, they actually closed down early and because of lack of funding and austerity and all that. But I just wanted to share that with you because I'm not sure if you're aware. But people would just have to like drop their trash like where the gate is. I don't know if that's
Yes.
sanitary and if it's
Yeah, the issue, Senator, is that Rhoda and Tinian, the solid waste facilities are not collecting tipping fees. And I've kind of had meetings with the mayors, the respective mayors, Ms. Hokog and Mr. O'Donnell, and said, look, if you're interested in providing the services to the residents, you want to do a universal trash collection service, that's fine. But somebody at the end of the day is going to have to pay for that service, for the fuel, for the
so
manpower,
it's not
right?
standardized. So whatever we do on site.
Well, right now it's standardized, but it's just not being enforced. I even encourage the two municipalities, right, that if they feel that the tipping fee structure needs to be changed, I'm very receptive to that.
Okay.
I want to be able to work with them, because just like the convenience center, if Asgono Convenience Center would have been stood up, that would have been something similar to Rhoda, right? You only have two main villages. You can have convenience centers there,
Yeah.
collect and process at landfill.
Okay.
Same thing with Tinian. For these far villages, we don't want them obviously to dispose of their trash at the beaches or at undeveloped properties, for example, right?
Right.
So
Which is happening.
right, it
Yeah.
is, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
that's why I'm being flexible. I'm not pushing them. I did issue them a notice, but they have not done anything, and that's fine. I want to get through the comprehensive integrated comprehensive master solid waste master plan first, so that we can properly set up the facilities, get them a compliant landfill,
Okay.
and then sit down and figure out how to pay for the operational costs.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for that explanation. That's all I have, Chair. I yield.
Thank you, Vice. Just going back to the developers tax, I know that it has been suspended, but if you can also provide the committee with data on the collection of the tax, because the projection is at 175,000, but what we're hearing from Tinian is that they've actually collected, I think, in excess of 500,000, and that's something that we want to verify and see if that's. I see one of you flashing here, but I mean, what if we can get the report so that we can better understand the impact of that. Additionally, if we can just go back, I know the building safety collection as of January 31st that was reported is around 84,000, but earlier Rita, you've mentioned that collection to date is at 69,000. Is that a different account? Or?
That's as of beginning of this fiscal year up to August.
So what's the difference between your 69 and her 84? Is that the same? Is that a different collection?
Yeah, I got the report here. Yes.
We can provide you with a copy that we have, and then we will go back and re-verify the figures and provide you with more clarity.
Okay, and then going back to the road maintenance account, which pays primarily for the street lights, how much is expenditures on street lights in one fiscal year?
About 1.3 million or 2.
No, I haven't had the time to review the list of suspended earmarks. Do you know if that account is one of them? Have you been able
Yes,
to?
it is.
Yes.
So then this would be something you will end up owing at the end of next fiscal year if that is suspended?
Well,
It's gonna
yeah,
accumulate. Yes.
right. That's why we asked that this, because we won't have the ability to avail of the road maintenance account, which we use to pay CUC. That explicit language in the Budget Act for 2025 clearly states that for that fiscal year that DPW will not be responsible as well, because there's just no way I can be able to
But if
fund
there's
it.
already a source that's already meant to pay for it and it's just enough to pay for it, I mean, I think that's because if otherwise we're going to pass this obligation to the
Secretary of
administration
Finance,
and it's
yeah.
still we're still the same.
Right, and that's the worry that I have, because cumulatively, even if you were to add all the special accounts under this department, it's not near enough to pay for required contracts, especially with solid waste and utilities, streetlights.
Which statute is this? The streetlight fund?
It's 1745, but I need to clarify. I was under the impression it was 45%, but it's actually not. It's 50% goes to DPS, 35% comes to DPW, and 15% goes to CUC.
Separate from the. So the 15% that goes to CC, that doesn't address any streetlight.
It's for CUC's. I'm not sure whether it's maintenance.
But the one that does go to you is to address the
or
streetlight.
hanging the streetlight on their pole. I mean, you would have to ask CUC how they expend their 15%.
Okay, so if anything, I think so. We just have to look through it. But if anything, I guess the proposal would be to just unsuspend that portion that goes to DPW to address the streetlight issue. Going back to the financial assurance, where did that 6.8 million come from? These are the collections.
That was from the Munis account that shows
But
that balance.
where this is from the tipping fees and all of that stuff.
Accumulated over the years.
Because according to the financial audit report, the actual cost and post closure cost as of September 2020 is at 15 million. So we're short.
Yeah, no. Just to clarify, that's for if the landfill is to shut down. You got to remember the whole facility, the whole MARPI
Right.
facility. The I, when we talk about cells, we're talking about the compartments, but really that we shouldn't be saying that it's really one facility, because cell number one, which is the largest, is near capacity. But once we process the post closure, we're only going to be closing 3 sites because there will be an active phase. And as other cells come online, we're just adding and moving in a easterly direction from where the big cell's at.
Okay,
So that's why it's really I had to throw that in the cell 1 and cell 2, because that's how it was languaged last budget year, or for this current budget year. So it's just a continuation, but now we have cell 2. So if cell 2 is full, then it'll be cell 1, 2, and 3. So right now I have not ordered the closure of cell 1. It's technically at 80% capacity, and we're managing it. Because if I do pull that trigger, we will be in we will
how
have a
much would
financial challenge.
the cost be for just cell 1?
Yeah, right, about roughly 6-7 million. We are required to provide estimates on a regular basis annually. That if any figures change, we can state so. But right now it's holding at that amount. In fact, I think about 7 million is a little too generous. So I asked, basically, the House has struck out that language and just says full faith and credit.
Okay.
Okay, so
Also,
that
we're gonna
amount is
continue that same language from the current year.
Yes.
Okay.
Follow-up quick question. So what's the problem again with waste to energy program? So we can, is this not enough volume, or so we can?
It's a little complicated, Senator, but basically at the end of the day, US EPA is not keen on emerging technologies. They want something that's already been certified or approved by them, and there's not a lot of those types of facilities. I do know that on the island of Oahu in Hawaii, they are actually generating waste to energy. I've seen the facility through 3D visualization. Their landfill actually only accepts the ash.
Okay,
So
but
they're generating.
Have you explored that already?
No, my understanding is that we don't have the required volumes.
Yeah.
Now, if we were just to do incineration, just to reduce waste, that's where EPA gets a little finicky. So it's something that if we were to pursue, I would have to seek a federal grant, because it's a very complicated, complex matter.
So just Secretary, I'm looking at all your divisions, like solid waste management, technical services division, roads and ground, building safety, and I'm just wondering if we can work with Mrs. V and see how we can tap more onto capital improvement projects, or how, so that we can use some of these monies to subsidize your personnel. Because if we can be a little bit creative and maybe just a little bit creativity in languaging it, so that we can somehow, whenever we have projects, for example, I repeat again, on the technical services division, but even on the roads and ground, it kind of like projects, right? And building safety. So if we're a little bit creative, maybe we can find some source out there that we can tap to supplement your department. I don't know how, but I'm just trying to think.
I'll look into that. Certainly.
Federal
Senator.
highway, right? You can surely. I know you're already tapping a little bit for some of these design or
Right.
inspection services, but of all the departments, you are maybe in the best position to kind of like find a way, alternative way to get some money to supplement our general fund, right? Because a lot of federal grants money out there, and EPI, Office of Grant Management, and CIP. No, you see, there must be a way. We're just trying to be creative. So, especially with your department and the employees here are getting 10 hours, no deduction,
Yes.
and we're seeing all this construction and going on, and why should it affect your technical people, right? No,
Right. Thank you, Senator, for that. And
just kind of let's see how we can transfer those costs to CIP. No,
thank you.
Sorry,
Thank you for that
thank
comment.
you.
Before I recognize the vice for another round, I think to Senator Paul's point, right now, do any of your guys or your staff go out and do any sort of inspection outside the hours? So even if though there's construction activities happening beyond 4:30 or 5 o'clock, do you do any sort of a
Okay. Generally, no. But if there's a special request, I leave it up to the office to make that determination. But generally, we kind of frown on it. Of course, if there's certain projects that needs monitoring, I leave it to their best judgment. And
But do we have a
presently-
lot of that happening like after government hours?
Okay, Peter. Go ahead.
Yeah. Just like yesterday, we have a chat group within our inspectors. So if they have like a road that collapsed due to a water line rupture, sewer line rupture, of course our inspectors, would have to go out and monitor that and make sure that whoever that are involved for that particular incident are well out there, or if there's a road restoration that Hawaiian Rock will be doing after hours and they're not complete, our inspectors are actually communicating with my office, within admin offices, so that we can be able to work around their working hours, so that whenever they work a little bit past the 4:30 hours, we make some hours of adjustment, so to speak.
Well, I'm thinking more on the lines of like
Yeah.
how customs has their CIQ funds that you charge to the vendor or the customer if they require your services after normal working hours. So I'm trying to see if that's
Yeah.
something that
Yep.
could benefit your department in the same way where
We do charge inspection fees, but maybe we can work along sort of the fees just in case they have like emergency situations. But usually our permits, we do charge the inspection fees when they call us, and that's part of it that's embedded into the.
but then does it
But the fees-
transferred over
fees-
to the employees
yeah.
for their time outside?
The fees go directly to.
Yeah. Fortunately, the department staff, they're really dynamic, and I actually applaud them for being versatile and flexible. What I do authorize them to do is to avail of comp time at a respectable rate. So if they are exceeding, right, if they do it on a Saturday after hours, time and a half comp time.
Well,
I'm
but then
perfectly fine with that.
they
But
can
yes.
also qualify for overtime if that's funded through these inspection fees that
Right.
you're
And
collecting.
I just
from.
asked Peter to double check to see if we have anything in the books that will allow that to be created. But I'm pretty sure that we don't have that authority. It would have to be created by law.
Okay, maybe that's another consideration. And just thinking because like with the customs, they've collected 2.6 million in CIQ funds that basically gets transferred over and pay for these overtime, and so Um, Senator Karina, you had sure.
Thank you, Chair. Just quick question. Has your department considered on converting over to like solar streetlights? And I'm asking that because I was in Guam just recently and I noticed that there's quite a few of them on the main roads and even on
Ye-
in Tumon.
Yes, this is part of the discussion earlier when you spoke of the Garpan revitalization project.
Oh.
I asked Energy Office Acting Director Vince and also Director Delma Enos. I said, hey, if we have solar street lights, can you see if we can put a string somewhere in Garpan that needs it, so we can have a monitoring
Sure.
and see if this is something that works for us.
Yeah. I
And-
mean, because obviously we have issues with CUC
Yeah.
and our arrears, and that's definitely something that we can improvise. But it would also save us a lot of money, in the
Now-
future.
we do have funding from it's a congressionally directed funding for Route 36 Phase 1A. We are going to fix a portion of damaged road between Bird Island and the Grotto.
Mhm.
And also within that Phase 1A, I've asked the engineers to look at how we can place strategically solar streetlights there, because that's seems we're getting a clarification from Federal Highway, but right now, preliminary speaking, it's doable.
Okay.
So I'll be able to throw or include some solar streetlights up in
Okay.
that
'Cause
area,
I did bring that.
so we can study it.
Yeah, I believe I spoke to Chris Conception just a while ago about the revitalization project in Garpan and whether or not solar streetlights were considered at the time it was being planned. And I think he said no, but they are looking into it right now. They're trying to get some quotations to see, how much more would that cost, especially in the tourist district, right? And even on our main highways, like if that would be really nice if we don't have to rely so much on CUC. And then also, I've had conversations with FB from Grant because I was asking him about the possibility of getting solar streetlights solely for the tourist district, and he told me that it was pretty easy to get solar lights or streetlights, and so that's just something that I'm throwing out there. Maybe if you haven't talked to Epi, maybe see if you
Yes.
can.
Yeah, those are still on the table. I haven't wavered from that.
Okay.
It's still an agenda item that is actively being pursued. Again, right now, I do have some alternatives for the short term. But definitely, we'll reach out to Epi's office again and just
Okay.
send him a reminder that now you're asking me, so I'm gonna
Okay.
remember to ask him that and remind him that you're
See if it's
asking.
possible.
So,
Thank you,
thank you.
Secretary. That's all I have, Chair.
Thank you, Vice. At this time, Secretary, so I think part of the discussion that the committee will have is to consider the unsuspension of at least the road maintenance earmark, but then also, I think, Mr. Camacho, right? You mentioned you had the listing already. Is that something? The listing of those solid waste positions that would
Yeah.
need funding. Is that something you already have right now that you can submit to the committee?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have the figures of how much there when they went up for announcement, but I can have it for you maybe around next week.
Okay.
I do have I just need to tweak it and include more information.
Okay. All right. So we'll go ahead and wait for that so we can see what the fiscal impact is there and try to include those also. And then just several reports regarding the collections year to date. Anything else from the members? If there's none, Secretary, is there anything else that you'd like to offer before we leave?
Pay raises for my staff.
If Mr. Camacho can submit that within his report altogether.
Thank you, Chairman. And, I have a really good group of folks working in this department. The average age of the staffing is actually pretty high. They're very well versed, very well tenured. They have a lot of years of experience. Director Camacho, for example, we're classmates going back to grade school. He's have how many years under your belt? 25? 30 years in government service. He's like he's my walking Bible, if you will, of government policies. So and Reed, same thing. Ben is very multi-versed. I can point at everybody behind me, and they have a lot of experience, and I want to be able to keep them. I want to be able to make sure that they are stable, with their family finances. It really hurts to be cut 10%, and they have families. I just ask that there's some flexibility. We're all in it together. I'm not happy with what was dealt by the prior administration, but we're all here hand in hand. We're gonna have to get through this together. So I just ask that as you guys deliberate on our budget, that give some consideration to these hardworking folks. This department is a revenue generating department. Okay? It is an important division or a department in the hierarchy of government services. So, and they take their jobs very seriously. We have no violations from US EPA with solid waste management. No accidents in the project sites. The quality of services, albeit it's a little slow. The bureaucracy is slow because, again, we're very short staffed, but they do amazing things when required. It just takes a little time because we don't have the resources. But if you're able to give us that resources, we'll be able to produce even better. But that is the challenge, and I believe we will sustain, given with the current outlook that we're facing. But I just like to say that you're looking at a very versatile staff. So please just consider our budget as you see reasonably fit. I'd love to ask for a lot more, but I'm gonna have to agree with everybody in this room that we just want things to be fair.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And that's why it's a good thing that the House, if that's really the case, had included the provision to allow for your revolving funds to address the shortfall that we see in the general fund. We are now seeing that was an issue in the current fiscal year. But if we continue to allow for these revolving fund accounts to go to the agencies, and it addresses not just your operational needs, but the shortfall from personnel, that's what we've seen. And so if you can kind of reassess your financial situation in terms of how much is actually being received through these accounts, and if that's sufficient enough to address the 12.5% that is not covered through the general fund, then at least that will be the mechanism to be able to use the revolving fund accounts to address that. Additionally, I think that's something, because your agency operates outside the normal government working hours, and so another consideration that you can address starting from the House would be to include in the statute, or maybe through regulations, to allow for some of the fees that you collect for inspection to be applied towards overtime or whatever that may be, so that we don't have to that could also address some of the what we're seeing in the shortfall with the general fund. And so at this time, we thank your staff as well for being here. If there's anything that we missed that you would like to share with the committee at a later time, or please feel free to provide that to the committee or any members present here today.
Oh, before I forget, I will submit to you our accounts receivable from our sister departments and offices. How much they owe us? 201,000.
Thank you. We'll see if we can pull it out of their revolving accounts. But thank you. Thank you again, everyone, for being here. Members, at this time, we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is announcements. As I stated earlier, tomorrow's hearings are rescheduled, and so I'll send out the memo of the new dates. Anything else from the members? Rescheduled, yeah. All right, if there's nothing else, can I get a motion for adjournment?
Mr. Chairman?
All right, motion was made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. All
Aye.
opposed, say nay. Meeting is hereby adjourned at 4:25 p.m.